I don't know each other, but I do have a few questions for you about the statement that you took. I guess the first question, if I could, and maybe you have it up there with you, maybe you don't, but do you remember how many different people's statements you took?
No, sir, I do not.
Do you have a rough estimate of how many?
I couldn't even tell you.
Like, was it more than 10?
Yes, sir.
You think it was more than 50?
Close, but I wouldn't be able to tell you.
And I guess, you know, it's not like a gotcha moment on you. I just want to make sure that it's clear that you took statements from a lot of different people who were involved at the scene on that day, right?
Correct.
And as far, I didn't really get to see, I know that you responded, because you responded there and you started taking statements as one of your duties. Were you, I guess, what time do you remember getting there? Did you get there on the 24th?
Yes, sir.
Did you get there while it was still ongoing, meaning before they shot the suspect or the shooter or the killer?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you remember when?
I don't remember exactly how long I was there before the suspect was shot and killed.
Right. And so what, if I could just walk back through it, what were you doing when you first got there? I know you might have answered it with him, but I don't think I caught it.
When I got the call from my supervisor, we responded from Crystal City in Zavala County. So by the time we arrived, it took us a while to get there. I don't remember exactly how long we were on the road for. But by the time I got there, we ended up parking on the south side of Robb Elementary on Old Carrizo Road. We couldn't proceed any further because of all the law enforcement officers that had already arrived and were blocking Old Carrizo Road and Geraldine, which is north of Robb Elementary. So we met on Old Carrizo Road. We pulled off, and I met with my lieutenant. And at that point, my lieutenant was just trying to gather as much information that he could from one of our rangers that was actually inside of Robb Elementary during the event.
Okay. So do you know which ranger was inside Robb Elementary?
Yes, sir. The Texas Ranger Ryan Kendall.
Okay. And I think that we get a reference on that from Adrian's statement. Ryan Kendall was the ranger that Adrian went and, I guess, gave the master key to.
Correct.
All right. And so one of the rangers, was that the only ranger that was inside the school?
I believe so.
Yeah, and I mean, if it wasn't, I'm not going to come back later and go, oh, there was another guy there. But just to your knowledge, he was, to your knowledge, the only one that was there.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Right, and then as far as rangers outside of the school, do you know how many of you guys were outside of the school or kind of in that mass of law enforcement?
Upon arrival, it was myself and my lieutenant, and then there was multiple rangers arriving at different times, but I couldn't give you an exact number.
Okay, that's fair. The reason I say that is because in some of these parts where Adrian said, well, we were waiting here, went to get kids out here, and then we were waiting here, or right before the breach, I was waiting over here or standing over here. That would also apply to all the rangers that were out there. They were waiting. They didn't breach and go in, the ones that you're talking about that were outside of the school, including yourself.
Correct.
Right. So you were also like kind of out there waiting right before the breach happened, wherever you were. You agree with that?
When I arrived, I was immediately given an assignment because we couldn't approach the school anymore because of the traffic on Old Carrizo and Geraldine Street. But immediately after arriving, there was students from those classrooms running south across the field on Robb Elementary towards Old Carrizo Road. So we gathered uniformed officers to kind of keep them off the street and get them to an empty parking lot, or an empty lot, that's south of Robb Elementary. So I was assigning troopers to stay with the kids and put up crime scene tape so we wouldn't have non-essential personnel coming into that lot because of the safety of the kids. And I was instructing the uniform officers to get with the homeroom teachers if they could, and make sure that the kids at least could find their school teacher, so we can make arrangements to have them bused from that area that was already cleared by law enforcement, to get them evacuated out of that neighborhood and get them somewhere safe.
And this is still when that monster's in the classroom alive with those kids, right? In 111.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And here's why I say it. I don't say it to say that you were doing wrong by not rushing yourself and going into the room. It's that you had other assignments that you were assigned by a supervisor, right, when you first got there.
Yes, sir.
And you were helping the kids that were able to get out. It's important also that they remain safe in an active situation. Do you agree with that?
Correct.
Right. Because, you know, like, training can be twisted around to say, well, if you knew the location, your training, alert training says it's your job to run over there and run into the classroom. I mean, training can be twisted that way. You would agree with that?
I wouldn't say that the training could be twisted. Every chain of events is going to have a particular way of how you treat it in a critical incident.
Sure, and I guess what I mean is that if you just took the training, as you know, we've seen and kind of heard from different parts of training, if you just took the training as it is, the training doesn't say on alert active shooter, because he's still an active shooter at this time that you're there, right?
There were no gunshots being fired when I arrived. So we were still gathering information as to, there was information that it was an active shooter, and then there was information that it was a barricaded subject,
right,
and possibility of a hostage situation. So there's still phone calls being made and information being processed that we needed to get, so we knew what proper steps that we need to do.
And I want to key in on that. Because I think I think you made a good. I think you made a good distinction. So what I said is, I said, well, when you got there, there was still an and I wrote here one, there was still an active shooter. And you said, well, yes, but we were getting information of, can you repeat that?
Of a barricaded subject.
And then what was the other one you said?
The hostages.
A potential hostage situation.
Potentially, yes.
Now, you would agree, because you've had the same, I guess, you as a ranger, you get the same types of trainings that any law enforcement officer in the state of Texas would get through TCO.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I mean, it's not like rangers are special or different in the sense that, I mean, you know, you might take different trainings, but at least you're getting the same kind of active shooter training, hostage training, barricaded subject training.
Correct.
All right. And you know that the trainings teach you to respond to these in different ways.
Correct.
Right. Because if a person is barricaded, you don't necessarily respond to them as if they were an active shooter.
Correct.
If a person is, if it's a potential hostage situation, you don't necessarily respond to it as if it's an active shooter or a barricaded subject.
Correct.
Okay, and so the reason I say that is because, and I'm not faulting you. I think that you would agree with me that there was a lot of confusion about what was happening out there, right?
Correct.
Yeah, because if you're getting conflicting accounts of, okay, this is an active shooter, okay, no, it's a barricaded subject, or here we're hearing it's a possible hostage situation. They have people, I guess you may not know, but it would be consistent on a hostage situation if somebody's kind of trying to talk to the shooter, saying, hey, come out, don't do this, those kind of things, trying to negotiate, like that would be more similar to a hostage situation, right?
Correct.
Okay. You wouldn't do that with an active shooter. You don't go, hey, please, will you stop shooting, right? Your training for that tells you to do something different.
Correct.
Okay. So the idea is that you guys, as the Rangers and all these other officers on scene, it is a chaotic and confusing scene. You would agree with that?
In the observation or the investigation, there was a lot of events that were happening. And going back to the active shooter, barricaded subject, and the potential hostage situation, in the alert training, it's very important for the first officer that arrives that he's the one that initially decides, is this an active shooter or a barricaded subject, and then acts according to the alert policies that they've been taught.
Sure, I understand that, but I guess you're assuming that I guess Adrian is the first one that arrived.
Based on the investigation that I did and the statement that I took from Adrian, that's what I was led to believe.
Sure. And I'll tell you that you're right by about 25 seconds, right? So, but let's talk about the first ones to arrive. If I can use this map. Because when we're talking about a school, it's the first one maybe to arrive like on the grounds of the school. That's one thing. But also, you could have the first ones to arrive on the same side of the school as the shooter and seize the shooter. Like, that would be different, right?
Correct.
Right, because somebody could arrive over here on this very back side of the school, and they could be the first ones here, but not know anything that's going on over here. You would agree with that?
Correct.
Right, because if by necessity, the first one to arrive is not getting radio traffic from other people who are there that's telling him this is where the person is, or descriptions or whatever else, right?
Correct.
Maybe they've talked to a witness, and we'll talk about that. But I guess the idea is that there is the first to arrive, but there's also the first to actually law enforcement to see the shooter and what the shooter is doing, right? And that would be different.
Can you reword the question?
Sure, and let's just talk about it, how it went, because we've been pointing at this map, for 2 weeks. But you know that Adrian's down here. That's when he arrives. This is where he is.
Correct.
Okay. You also know from your investigation that there were 3 officers that were right here: Mendoza, Saucedo, Coronado.
I don't recall physically or talking to any of them that were actually there. Mm-hmm. Any of the 3 officers that you just named were at that intersection. That's information that I learned later.
Okay.
But I never got to interview any of the officers.
Okay. But you do know the information. You learned it.
Yes.
Okay. And that's kind of what I'm going to be talking about, is what because if you have the information, they need the information. So I'll talk about the information you have now. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you know now that you got these 3, and they arrived about 25 to 30 seconds after Adrian arrives here. Right?
I'll take your word for it.
Okay. But you do know there's 3 here.
Again, it's information that was given to me secondhand, so I've never verified it or checked it.
Well, I can tell you that it's true, and if it wasn't true, they would say it's not true. I'm telling you it's true.
Okay.
Okay. So, but I guess here's what I mean by that. And this is what I mean, that training can you can use training in a lot of different ways. Like, well, our training says the first to arrive. Well, I guess that's true, but if you're the first to arrive by 2 seconds and you don't have a line of sight to the shooter, then that may not be the person who has to determine whether or not it's an active shooter, right? It would be the first to arrive that actually has line of sight and can see what's going on and knows what's going on.
Correct.
Right. And so because it's not like this, it's not this black and white rule that if your car gets there first, wherever it gets on the school campus, that you're the person that has to determine it. Because like I said, if you're in locations that can't see what's happening, you may not have the best information. It may be other people who arrive a little bit later than you, but have better information about what's happening.
Correct.
Okay. And so because I want to talk a little bit about, the nature of interviews. As part of, and let's just talk about set the scene of when you did that interview. You did that interview on May 25th, 2022.
Correct.
Which is, was it less than 24 hours or a little more than 24 hours after this thing occurred?
A little more than 24 hours.
Okay. And and you've heard, I'm sure, that interviewing anybody who's gone through something like this that soon after, it's not the most advisable thing as far as getting the most accurate information. You've heard that.
That would depend on the officer that's been involved in that critical incident.
Sure. There's some that may be fine and, that can accurately recall all the details. But you have heard, I'm sure, now that there's like advice that says, look, you need to wait 72, sometimes 4 or 5 days until after that before interviewing somebody.
That's usually done when officer's been involved in an officer-involved shooting that's used as a weapon or things of that nature. Because of the scope of this the scope of this investigation, how large it was, we needed to get as much information as quickly as possible because we needed to assure that the suspect that was shot and killed at Robb Elementary didn't have co-conspirators. So that was the urgency of trying to interview to gain as much information as we could.
Yes, and do not get me wrong. I'm not saying you shouldn't have done that. You should have done that. You needed to do that. That's not the issue. You got to interview people when you got to interview them, especially if there's a potential threat out there. And I remember, and I know even from the time, but I know that you guys were looking for any other Confederates, anybody else that could have helped him or been a part of that or knew about it before he did it, right? That was a big part of what we were doing.
That's correct.
Right. So you have to do it. But I guess what I'm saying is that if you can acknowledge that, yeah, sometimes the circumstances mean we can't do best practices, and that also may mean that we're interviewing somebody who's gone through a traumatic event, right? And so you have time compression and all those other things that can happen to police officers or others when involved in a situation like this, right?
Correct.
Right, because an officer-involved shooting, it's not necessarily tied to the fact that an officer has had to use their gun and fire their gun. It's tied to the fact that they're in a situation where either they fired their gun or they've been fired upon.
Correct.
Right, or they believe they've been fired upon. Right?
Yes.
And one of the things that Adrian told you in the interview was these shots are starting to get fired, but he cannot see the shooter and he doesn't know where they're coming from.
Well, that's not exactly accurate. Or if I may, when I'm interviewing Mr. Gonzales, he says that he's talking to the female teacher that's running and falls on the ground, and he drives up to her, and when he's talking to her, she's telling him he's over there, and she's pointing towards the teacher parking lot, and you can hear that in the interview. We go back several times because I'm not familiar with Robb Elementary. I've never been to that campus before May 24th. And that is not his regular place where he's stationed. We got that out of the way right at the beginning of the interview. So we're going back and forth where I need to draw a map and I need to get my bearings too, so I know exactly what Mr. Gonzales is talking about and what door he's talking about and which door he walked into and where other details, right? But
sure.
That was the whole point of having the map and just going back and forth. But He does recall that he's talking to the female teacher. He turns around and immediately starts hearing rounds go off that he later describes as he believed were gunshots in the interview. Right, just to clear it. And he says...
My question, if you would go back, because you kind of answered a long way around.
Okay.
My question was, he was clear that he did not see the shooter and didn't know where the shots were coming from, specifically. Because you can't know where the shots are coming from if you can't see the shooter shooting. You understand? You get that, right?
So it's a two-part question that you're asking me. He never saw the shooter. You're correct. No.
Never saw the shooter.
Never saw the shooter. When he hears the rounds, he says they're being muffled. He goes, and I know that they're coming from behind the building.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about it. This is behind the building, right, from where he is.
Yes.
This is behind the building.
Yes.
This is behind the building.
Mm-hmm.
This is behind the building. All of these are behind the building from where he is. If he's looking here, that's behind the building. You would agree, a shot coming from here.
Yes.
Okay. And this is behind the building, and this. So all I'm saying is that that's not saying behind the building does not say I know where these shots are coming from. He knows a general area that covers about half a mile where they could be coming from. But he doesn't know exactly where the shots are coming from because, and we'll talk about it, he even mentioned it. He says because there's echo, right?
Correct.
He said there's echoing. Now, when we talk about echo, you know this as an officer. The gunfire, gunshots, especially a gunshot that comes out of a rifle, such as the one that this murderer was using, are loud. You would agree with that?
They are loud, yes.
Very loud. Right?
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't fire one intentionally if you could help it without using ear protection.
Correct.
Because they're so loud it can damage your ears. Now, if you're using it in the field and you have to, you're not maybe going to put on ear protection, you deal with it. But they're that loud that you would protect your ears if you could while firing one of these, like on a range or something like that, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so you also know that gunfire, because you're trained in this, that gunfire will echo off of structures if there are structures around, right?
I've never received a type of training where it specifically talks about the report of a firearm being shot, that it bounces off. I understand there's echoes, but to tell you that I've received formal training, I know exactly where it's coming from or how far.
Yeah, let's talk about your experience, because there's been a lot of officers before that have testified, and they talked about it's common, that an echo, what will happen is that the sound will bounce off of a structure, and it can enter your ear in a different place than it's actually coming from because of the echo. Have you had a personal experience with that, like firing rounds and maybe hearing like it sounded like 2 rounds getting fired when it was only 1 because of the echo?
No, sir.
Ever. Have you ever been in a place that had an echo and even when you're a kid and said, hello, 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 hello? Have you done that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I don't make light of it. It's just I'm trying to gather, you do have experience with echo.
Yes.
And you understand the process, that sound bouncing off of things and then coming back to you.
Understood.
So I put out hello, and it comes back hello.
Yes.
Okay. Gunfire can be the same. Gunfire reports bouncing off of structures can cause a human being not to understand or know exactly where it's coming from. Because the echo, if the echo's coming in their right ear, something that's being fired on their left side could sound like it's coming from the right. You understand that as a concept, even if you haven't been formally trained in it.
Yes.
And that can throw off the human body's ability to understand and locate where gunfire's coming from. You understand that?
Yes.
And he actually, the day after this happened, he told you that that's what he was experiencing. He was experiencing echo, which caused him not to be able to understand where the gunfire was coming from. Right?
Correct.
Except behind the building somewhere. Now, these officers here, I don't know, I guess I'll see if you found out later, but these officers here actually, when the shooter is shooting into the windows here, these officers here believe that the gunfire is actually being fired at them. Did you know that later?
No.
Okay, that they were like ducking and diving under their cars because they thought that the gunfire was coming at them when it was going the opposite way, right?
Correct.
Okay, so if that's the case, you would understand that because of the concept of echo, he's firing at a building, it's bouncing off the building, and they believe that the gunfire is coming in their direction, and that would make sense to you,
Yes.
right? The only thing that you could really figure out, like, oh no, he's not firing at us, is if you see him and you see the shooter and they are firing in this location and you realize, okay, the gunfire is going that way, not coming at us, right?
Correct.
Okay, but if you cannot see him, you're still in that problem of trying to echolocate, where these shots are being fired. And I would point that out to say, to go with what you were talking about, one of the things you said to Adrian, there was a lot going on out there, right? That can add anything that can affect your sensory perceptions of what's happening is just added into the mix of a lot going on out there. You would agree?
Correct.
Right. Like, and and you've been trained, and I know you've been trained on this because all police officers have to know that if you're in this situation, you will start to have an adrenaline dump, right? And you've heard of that term or something like that. Increased levels of adrenaline going through your body.
Yes.
And then with an adrenaline dump, it can affect the way that you are hearing things and the way that you are seeing things and the way that you perceive time. You have heard that.
Yes.
Time can go very slow or it can speed up very fast for you at different times.
Correct.
Even the same person could experience time going very slowly and then going very quickly. And the reason they tell you guys that is because they say, look, you need to understand and know this so that you can expect it and then control it to the best of your ability.
Correct.
Right. Because if they didn't teach all that and you guys and something like this happened to you, it might distort your ability to respond. Right.
Correct.
Right. Because of how that's going. So he's telling you that he hears banging. He's saying like he's somewhere behind the building. I don't know where they're coming from. I can't see him, but I know it's somewhere behind the building. Then he does talk about seeing this coach. And now I want to talk. I don't in fact think she was a coach. I think that she's a teacher's aide, a teacher's assistant. But either way, you came to find out in your investigation that that's Melody Flores.
I do know.
You're right, that he was speaking to. So I want to go through and talk about a few of the things he told you. So he told you, for one, that he was at the high school, well, he's at what they call Mexican Park, which is with the seniors, because they were having a senior awards day, or something, some senior fun day, or something going on at Mexican Park, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then he hears it. He hears that there's a crash at the elementary school, outside the school. And then he hears that there's a person that has a gun that's going towards the school. Right? That's what he tells you.
He makes two separate statements. I believe the first one is man with a gun. And then while he's en route to Robb Elementary, he hears he's running towards the school.
Well, and I guess if you, I don't know, is because part of your investigation, regardless of how everything seems now, your investigation wasn't to investigate him. It was just to get his statement about what happened that day.
That's correct.
Right. So, just like with the other maybe 50 officers you investigated that aren't charged in this case, you weren't intending to investigate them. You were intending to find out as witnesses what happened that day. Right.
That's correct.
Right. And as far as the dispatch, as part of that, I'm assuming you probably didn't at the time. You didn't go listen to the dispatch to follow up to see if that's really what was going out over the radio.
No, I did not.
Okay. And I guess to this day you haven't done that.
No, sir, I have not.
Okay. But do you know from your knowledge now, because I know that I know that the Rangers spent a lot of time investigating this and eventually have some shared knowledge about what happened, either through the reports, the committee reports, the Uvalde ISD report, all the reports that don't have him guilty of anything at all. But in reviewing all of those things, have you been able to see that this radio traffic actually that's what was being radioed out, that there was first a wreck, oh my gosh, somebody's wrecked. Then there's, oh my gosh, this person has a gun. And then Adrian told you that he heard a lady got shot in the head about 2 blocks away, also while he was en route, right?
Correct.
And we know that was the shooter's grandmother that he
Yes.
shot in the face.
Yes.
Okay. So all of this is going on in his head, and he tells you that he responded. He took action. You would agree with that?
Correct. He responded.
Right. And took action. That's taking action.
Yes.
All right. Now let's talk about what else is taking action. Put this up here for you, please. Let's go to this one first. I'll just need you to go back on the thing. Okay, so I'm gonna come up here with you. So what Adrian is explaining to you in this interview is that he's receiving this information, and he did not say, I'm gonna stay here and not do anything about it. He got in his car and he responded as you would expect him to do, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then what he tells you, because the phrase and the language that he says is, he said, well, I made a mistake, but I want to talk about whether or not he really made a mistake in this situation with what he knew. So he says he's coming down this street, and he tells you that this gate has been left open, right? This is the teacher gate.
That's correct.
And this would be a teacher gate that goes into the teacher parking lot on the west side, which is what he explained, that the teachers in this building would park here, access that parking lot through this gate, and it's supposed to be closed, but when he pulled up, he noticed 2 things. There's a truck in the culvert, and this gate is open.
That's correct.
Right. And then he noticed a third thing. Somebody is running towards the school up here. And he saw that. He told you he saw somebody running towards the school.
Said he saw a person running. Whether or not it was towards the school or away from the school, that was never said in the interview. But I agree that he saw a person running.
Saw a person running. Now, you're a police officer. It's been dispatched. Now remember, on the dispatch, it doesn't say that they have a long rifle. I'm sorry about the block. It doesn't say the person has a long rifle. It says the person has a gun. Now, a gun to you can mean a long rifle, right?
Correct.
Could also mean, yeah, thank you.
Correct. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I think we can move it a little bit because I know it's been awkward for every witness to have to do that. Maybe that'll help. So, a long rifle is a gun, but a handgun's also a gun.
Correct.
Now, and we can just talk about the difference, if it had been described that a person's running with a long rifle, maybe if you see a person running that doesn't have a long rifle, maybe you can exclude that person as a person who is the threat or is the danger, right? You would agree with that?
Yes.
Because it's hard to hide a long rifle, from view. If you can see both their hands and they don't have a rifle sticking out somewhere, you can go, okay, that may not be the person. Let me look and try to find somebody else that looks like they have a rifle, right?
That's correct.
Right. But if you only know that they're running towards the school with a gun, a person running can have that gun right here in their pants. They can have it in their hand. They can have it in a pocket. You wouldn't know. You wouldn't be able to know if that person had a gun or not, right?
Correct.
Okay. So he comes and he sees this. He says, this is not my concern, because my concern is that I have been told that somebody with a gun is running towards the school and I can see a person running, right?
Correct.
Now his language, one of the things he says is, he's talking about her as if it's a she, but he tells you that at the time, I'm saying it now because I know now that it was a she, but at the time I did not know it was a she. She had short hair. I didn't recognize the person, and I believed what he's telling you by having tunnel vision, and I tunneled in on her, which he's saying her, but he didn't know her at the time. You'd agree with that?
Correct.
Right. I tunneled in on her. So what he's doing is you have an officer that believes that a person with a gun is running towards the school and he takes action. You agree with that?
Correct.
Right. Because he drives down here. Did you see the video of the funeral home, like how fast he's driving on this dirt road to get to this person?
I remember seeing the video.
I mean, his car is going, boom, boom. He's going like 50 miles an hour down this road to try to get to her. So he goes all the way where we see the car. Nico, can you back it up?
Left or right?
Left. Goes all the way to here. And he tells you that this is where he stopped. That he stopped his vehicle where he finally met the person who was running. Right? And he said, where you see my vehicle here is where I stopped my vehicle at the time. And meaning that it wasn't like he stopped like here and then somebody moved it up here. He stopped it here, and you can agree with that.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So now we know that has put him on the far south and east side of the building. Right?
Yes.
All right. Now what he described is he said, I made a mistake. I got tunnel vision. So first of all, tunnel vision means you have identified, and it can happen, not always, but when you identify a threat and you have tunnel vision, you start focusing specifically on the threat. That can happen with tunnel vision.
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, all these questions, it's weird. It's cross-examination, so the rules say I could just ask you and kind of put a little question mark on the end of it. But if you don't agree with me, please say no. But what I'm asking is that with tunnel vision, and you're zeroing in on a threat, what that means is that you're excluding things like in the periphery, right?
Correct.
So if I perceived you as a threat, all of a sudden, like right now, I can see the jury out of the corner of my eye and out of the side of my eye. I can see them. I can't see them well, and I can't see their faces. But I can at least see that there's people over here. If you pulled out a gun, I wouldn't see those people anymore. I wouldn't see this anymore. I'd be zeroed in tunnel vision on you.
That's a possibility.
Right.
Yes.
And that's a common possibility, common enough that law enforcement is trained on. Right?
Yes.
Thank you. So, yeah, and so let's talk about it. He said I made a mistake, but really he was mistaken about who the person was and what their intents were, or what their intent was as they were running. You agree with that?
Can you reword the question?
Yeah, he said, because he told you, well, I made a mistake and I got tunnel vision. Well, it's not a mistake to have tunnel vision, because that happens to us without us wanting to have it happen to us, right?
Correct.
Right. It's like it's an involuntary thing that happens when you're responding to a threat. And so that's not him making a mistake. It's just what happened, right? Right.
That's what Mr. Gonzales said happened.
Right.
Yes.
Right. But but as a law enforcement officer, I'm going to ask you. You know that if you think you see a guy running towards a school that has a gun, you're going to get zeroed in on that person too, if that's what's been dispatched to you.
Zeroing in on a person and getting tunnel vision are two different things. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just I don't agree with the way you explain it.
Yeah, maybe.
But
that's okay. But I guess what I'm saying is that any reasonable law enforcement officer who's been dispatched and the person says they are running towards the school with a gun, if they see it, and I'll tell you, this is where she was running. She fell down. If they see somebody running towards the school with a gun, well, with what they think is a gun, you're going to go to that person.
I agree.
Right. You're not going to dilly-dally around here, and this person's now running into that building and shooting kids.
Correct.
Right. You're going to go right to that person until you figure out they're not a threat.
Correct.
Right. And say it is the person with the gun. You will have choices, like I'm about to run this person over, or I'm about to stop this car and have to get out and engage with this person. Right. Those are the options. If he is correct, and this is the shooter, this is the person going towards the school, he's going towards there to get into a conflict with this person. Right?
Correct.
Right. He's going there to engage, to distract, to delay, to use whatever he can use at his disposal to stop this person from going into the school. That's the assumption you can make.
Yes.
Right.
Well, it's not an assumption. It's what you're supposed to do. That's the foundation of alerts training.
That's right.
Is you isolate, you distract, and you neutralize.
Right. Isolate, distract, neutralize. Had this person been the gunman, Adrian's going to isolate, distract, and neutralize.
Correct.
I mean, you believe that. right? And I mean, I believe it, and I think everybody else here knows that that's the reason he's down here. And he's consistently said that to you and and we've gotten it out through other witnesses.
Correct.
Yeah, and so when I said he's mistaken, what that means is that factually it wasn't the gunman. But with all the information that he had at the time, that is a smart maneuver. That is a smart thing to do, is to go to the person you believe is the threat. That's law enforcement.
Correct.
Right. The day after, somebody may be beating themselves up about it, because what we know now through the witness is the guy's in here in the parking lot. Mm-hmm. And he drove right past it. Mm-hmm. Right? But did you review the testimony, or not necessarily the testimony, but as part of your investigation from the funeral home director who was calling it in and got shot at by the gunman, and he's across the street? I'll just tell you, he testified to the jury that the gunman was down between two cars, and there's no way Adrian could have seen it, because he could see him and he could see the cop, but he could see that the cop couldn't have seen the gunman. Did you know that?
No.
Okay. But the gunman now is hidden in this parking lot. He has gone this way. At the time that he gets out, he tells you he's talking to her, and then she starts to tell him. He's over on the west side, like in the teacher parking lot on the west side. He's wearing all black. Right? Is that what you remember from the interview? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, go ahead and take the water. So, I guess, that's another thing. Had the description come out over the radio to him, or let's say to you if you were responding, and they said, person with the gun is wearing all black, well, this lady up here in orange or red, that's not the person you're going for, right?
Correct.
Right. But it didn't, and it's nobody's fault that it didn't. But in these kind of situations, information comes in bits and pieces, and you have to do the best you can with what you have. You agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. So as far as the shooter, though, we know from the shell casings that he's firing into these windows along this side of the building. Now, if that's happening, it is consistent with what he's saying that the witness told him, that it's in the teacher parking lot, right? It's also consistent with him thinking that the gunshots are coming from behind the building, like somewhere, but he doesn't know where because he can't see. Now, he's here, this guy's here. Did you review the radio traffic that when he calls out that the guy's on the west side of the building, wearing all black, the second before he calls that out, the guy's already entered the building? Did you see that happened?
I never reviewed the radio traffic.
And fair's fair. But because there was another part of the interview is that he's saying, and I know you were pointing to a diagram, you made a map. I don't even have it. Did you ever give that over to the DA's office?
Yes, sir.
Oh, was that the one you sent over? Okay. Then I'll take it. I hadn't remembered that we got it, but it was one of those that you sent over. I found it. So that, talking about the map, because one of the things you said was, or one of the things he said is, he said, I never went in until I got coverage over here. And I think he was pointing to the south side of the building. You heard him say that in the interview?
He was. My understanding is that he went in through the south door, and he meant coverage on the west door, because he's calling over Lieutenant Mariano Pargas in that large SUV, but for some reason Lieutenant Pargas keeps driving. Donald Page comes over to him on the south door with Mr. Gonzales, and Lieutenant Mariano Pargas ends up on the west side.
Well, you know that as a law enforcement maneuver, sometimes, so for instance, let's go back up here and look real quick. For instance, let's just imagine, let's imagine this, you see this little person right here?
Yes.
It's hard to see, but small. Well, imagine, shooter, or in this location. There is a law enforcement maneuver where you have one person in a car, a big car, like he was saying, where you would have the car kind of roll up this side to try to provide coverage with somebody behind the engine block, that if they take fire, they're taking fire into the vehicle. That is a maneuver that you've heard of before, or have you not?
Using a vehicle as cover, yes. That particular scenario, no.
Right, like rolling the car real slow, and then as you're rolling the car real slow, he can pump, 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 pump. He can
I
pump
understand
it.
what you're trying to say.
You see what I mean? You can pump
Yes.
into the car, but you can kind of pop it over. Well, the reason you would want a bigger car for that is you want a bigger engine block, because the engine block, as we know, is the only thing that can block or stop a round like the one that he was firing. If even that does, but it's the only thing on a car that really will, because everything else is going to go through it like Swiss cheese.
No, not necessarily. I think that's more of an opinion.
Okay.
And I've been in trainings where we've used the pillars to the cars, which is the pillars that holds the windshield, the front door, the passenger door, and we've shot multiple rounds, including practice ammo, duty ammo, and it'll stop it. But
Yeah.
I think that's just a
I guess I'm thinking a pillar, though, is probably what you're talking about. Is probably about that wide.
yes, but you can double them up and use them as cover, because it's, if you stand at an angle, the pillars are wide. My point is that the engine block is not the only thing
Okay.
that'll stop a bullet,
But let's talk about
especially
this. though.
223.
Yeah, let's talk about this though. Doors, probably not good. If you can shoot through a door with a firearm like
I don't agree with that.
that. Okay. Window, you got to agree with a window. That you shoot through a window with a firearm like that. You
A
don't
regular
agree?
vehicle, non-ballistic window, I agree with you.
Right. So I don't know, like ballistic window. You're talking about like what we would
A
call
bulletproof glass.
Well, yeah, bulletproof glass. right?
Okay,
Sure.
just to be clear.
Yeah, not bulletproof glass.
Okay.
I don't think that most police cars though have bulletproof glass in them. Do you? I mean, is that your experience? I don't know.
I don't either.
Like, what about yours that you drive with your Rangers? Is that bulletproof?
No, sir, no.
Right. I didn't figure. So really, what I'm talking about is like, I mean, let's just talk about a regular car, right? Like, bullets go through glass. Yes.
Yes.
They do teach you, like, hey, if you're kind of standing next to you're just like standing next to your door, rounds can go through a door. I mean, you don't even have to have a rifle for that. I've seen 9mm rounds go through a door in a car. You agree with that? That they can?
I'll take your word for it. It's possible.
Okay. I mean, yeah, because as a prosecutor, a long time ago, prosecuted murder cases where, I mean, yeah, I see them. The guy got shot in the car through the door, right? And have you never seen a case like that?
Yes.
Okay. So you know, too, that bullets could go through doors. But the engine block, the reason why is because the engine block is big, it's steel, it's got a lot of, I guess, mass to it. And the more mass and the more steel and the more things you have like that, the more likely to block a round. With that.
I agree with you.
Okay. So all I'm saying is a maneuver like that, if they think that they're challenging somebody here in the parking lot who has a rifle, and he had, they have pistols. He said, nope, we don't. We don't have any rifles, right?
Correct.
Okay, and Nico's asked a question, and I'll ask you. I mean, if you are in a situation where there's a gunman and you have your firearm, would you rather be the one with the rifle or the pistol?
I'd rather be the one with the rifle.
Right, especially outside. Maybe not in like very close quarters, but outside, any of that, a rifle, longer range and more accuracy. You would agree with that?
Correct.
Okay. So, however, if the belief is that the person is here, that's one thing that can happen with a bigger vehicle. But I wanted to point out, as part of that is that I didn't go in until I got cover. That doesn't necessarily mean I was waiting for cover until I went in. Do you see what I mean by that?
Can you explain that again?
Yeah. So in one scenario, I didn't get in until I got cover means I wasn't going to go in. I didn't go in until I got cover means I wasn't going in until I had cover officers there. One scenario. The other scenario is I didn't go in until I got cover, which is just placing it in time when he went in. Do you see? Is there a difference or a distinction?
I don't think I could tell you what his intent was when he said he didn't go in, because then I'd be assuming this is what he meant.
Yes. Well, and that's really where I want to get, because, you know, there, and this isn't on you, but I mean, you could have asked a follow-up question. What do you mean by that? Were you actually waiting for cover before you went in, or did you just not, at the same time that you're seeing the bullet come out of the window, which determined that, okay, now we know that the person is inside the school, are all of these things kind of happening at the same time, and then your cover's arriving as well as the time that you've noted the location? I mean, you could have followed that up, but you didn't in the end.
Correct.
Right, okay. So, and what's important about talking about seeing a round come out of that east side glass is that, first of all, I'm going to be up and down a lot, I'm sorry, is that first of all, if he were in, because this is, I don't know if you saw it later, but this is where Donald Page's vehicle ended up parking, kind of right here, kind of even with the south door. Did you know that, the other police officer?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, we'll see stuff that'll show that Page is kind of in this area. What I want to point out is that anybody standing in this area can't see rounds coming out of this window because their view is blocked by the building, right?
You're saying that they're standing on the south side of the building?
Yeah, like right here. Because if I'm standing here, even with this door, and rounds start coming out of these windows here, I would not be able to see the rounds coming out of the window because of the glass. I can maybe hear it, but you can't see it because there's a building there. You see what I mean?
I'd have to get a better angle, or a better view of another angle, because I can't give you an accurate answer from
Sure,
that.
no, I get it. So let me do it like this. If I am, we're talking about a building, so we're talking about big. So if I am a person in a building, and I'm standing on this side of the building, right? This is the side of the south side, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
South side. And these windows are here, rounds are coming out there. If I'm standing here on the south side, blocked by the building, I'm not going to be able to have that line of sight across the windows to see rounds coming out of that. You would agree with
Correct.
that? Okay. And that's kind of, because we've been out there, we kind of looked at all this, and that's how that school is. And I know you've been out there too. But, and my only point to make with that is to say, when he told you, he said, look, I'm seeing rounds come, I see something flying out of the glass on the east side. He's still up here, because up here, you do have line of sight to what's coming out of that building.
That's correct.
Right. And he tells you he goes down because Page has come up, and he goes down to Page. They meet here, and they go in the south door, along with, I think, two other people, the chief and somebody else, is what he said. Right? Coronado.
Correct.
Right. So Coronado, they do that, and you've seen that hallway. You saw the hallway at the time that they're moving through the hallway, that they're going down the hallway, both south and from the north. Like video, or you haven't? I don't know.
I haven't seen that video.
Okay. Have you heard, or did you interview anybody? Did you interview like Donald Page or anybody else who were the first people to go in the building when they knew the gunshots were in the building?
I don't remember interviewing Donald Page. I
Anybody?
remember I interviewed Eduardo Canales, Uvalde Police Department.
Okay. So Canales. What about anybody that, like, what about the two that were shot in the exchange of gunfire with the gunman, with the shooter?
I don't remember if I did.
Was that Canales in the leg? So one got it in the leg and one got it in the head. It kind of grazed it. Did you know that?
Yes.
Okay. And that occurred, and Adrian told you that as part of the interview, that they figured out that shots were coming inside the school, and they went into the school. He told you that.
Can you repeat the question?
He told you that he, along with the other officers, he said he figured it out because he figured out this guy is not on the west side of the building in the teacher parking lot. He's inside this school because there's a bullet coming out of the school.
Correct.
Right. So he starts going to Page. Page comes in, and he goes in with Page, and they go into that school building to the south side.
Correct.
That's action. You'd agree with that?
Correct.
Because, and you could probably attest to this, because that would be terrifying. to be in a hallway with a gunman with a rifle. That is a scary situation for anyone to be in.
Correct.
Who's intent on killing you.
Yes.
Right. So, regardless of how that feels, he took action and he went down that hallway. But one of the ways you asked the question, you said, did anyone say, we need to go down that hallway, this hallway, and we need to find the shooter? He said no. Now, and it goes back to, like, if we parse out the question. They could be going down the hallway to find the shooter, but no one said that that's what they were doing. Do you see what I mean by that?
Yes.
Right. So, because your question was specific. Did anyone say we need to go down the hallway and find the shooter? The answer is no. But that could be because no one said that. They were just doing it. Do you see what I mean?
Possibility. Yes.
Because why else are they in the hallway advancing towards the room where they think the shooter is? Right?
Yes.
And I say that, and it's not because, like I said, at the time, you weren't investigating him, and you weren't necessarily asking some of those follow-up questions, and it did not know we would be sitting here years later talking about it in court. But I guess the idea that he's in that hallway and the shooter doesn't completely emerge from the classroom, but the gun comes out of the classroom and shoots two of the officers that are in that hallway, right?
I don't think that's accurate, that the gun came out of the classroom? Are you saying that the suspect actually
He didn't come out, the gun came
pushed the muzzle out of the classroom and fired rounds?
Maybe I'm wrong with that.
That's an assumption. I don't have enough information to give you a correct yes or no. That if I answered that question, I'd be giving you an assumption
Okay.
that happened.
I
My
mean-
understanding was that
You
when I
shot
spoke to Mr. Gonzales, the suspect was shooting through the walls.
through the walls.
Yes, from inside the classroom.
But what Adrian said, well, he did shoot through the walls at some point because Adrian said that like he could see like plaster whizzing out my page, right? He says that to you in the interview.
Yes, correct. Piece of sheetrock flew out towards.
And that would be consistent with him the gunman shooting through the wall, right?
Correct.
But Adrian also told you that the officers coming from the north, that they were trying to peek into the classroom. And he said he was trying to peek in, and I don't know what happened, but then shots started coming in their direction, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And those things are loud, and shot about, I think he said 7 to 9 times.
Correct.
Right.
Mhm.
So, at the time that we're talking about that hallway, it seems to me that there are 5 or 6 people in the hallway, officers in the hallway.
About 6 or 7.
Okay, 6 or 7. So now Adrian is not the only officer that's on the scene. There are other officers. They are advancing towards a gunman. The gunman is using his gun to back them off, to try to keep them back. He's laying down fire at them. Right?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, the gunman, the shooter, this monster, being aware that there are now officers in the hallway. I'm going to walk through that. The gunman being aware that there are officers in the hallway, he knows now he can't come out of those rooms without meeting the officers in the hallway, right? You have to assume.
I can't answer that question because I never spoke to the suspect. I don't know what his train of thought was or what his mental status was.
Yeah, I'm not saying necessarily him. I don't think you or anybody should even try to get into a mind that's sick and diseased.
Mhm.
But what I'm saying is that anybody, just a human being who sees others, police officers now in the hallway, would know there ain't any other way out except out through those windows, or I got to come through the door, or they're going to come through it. I mean, that's a reasonable expectation. The officers are going to come in.
Yes, I agree
Right.
with that.
And from your investigation, you know that when they finally did breach, that the shooter was posted up in that closet directly across from the door of 111.
Correct.
intent. I mean, the reason he was there, he was hiding himself, and he was there with his gun, obviously trained on the door. You know that.
Correct.
Right. Waiting to be a cop killer, wanting to be a cop killer. Right?
Correct.
Okay. So now, Adrian's mere presence alone with these other officers have shown the suspect that there are officers in the hallway and that he is now contained. These two rooms are the only rooms he can go to.
Correct.
Okay. Then, so that's, at some point, that's containment. As well as, you would agree that no shooter, nobody in that position would know when the breach is going to happen outside. There's no way for them to know inside when the breach is going to happen.
Correct.
Right. So, there is a possibility that he crawled in there and stayed in there waiting for the officers for as long as it took to breach because he wanted to be ready to be a cop killer. There's possibility.
It's a possibility, yes.
Right. And if that is a possibility, he didn't go to the other room and shoot any more of those children in 112. If he's posted up waiting and wanting to kill a police officer coming in, because he doesn't know when.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't want to be caught out, not getting his chance to be a cop killer as well. That's a possibility.
It's a possibility.
Right. And so, there's a lot of things that people have said, but the action, at least getting down the hallway and at least taking the shooter's fire and letting them know that they were there, could have been beneficial to help some of the kids that were in 112. Could have been.
Yes.
By distracting him, because now he's distracted by, now I want to go and get these guys instead of going over to 112 again and looking to see if there's anybody that's playing dead, which we know that they were.
It's
Right?
possible, yes.
Okay. So, and regardless of who you are, somebody's fired a rifle in a hallway where you're at. It's a scary situation for whoever you are.
Correct.
Police officer, regular person. It's hard. It's scary, right?
Correct.
Okay. At the time, he told you that at some point, because their radios don't break inside the school. Now, that is a situation that a police officer does not create. They do not create having crappy radios that don't work inside of a building that they're supposed to be in there protecting. Right? He didn't create that.
Correct.
Right. And radioing for backup, you would agree is necessary. He said, I tried to alert every agency that I could find, and we know that almost every agency there responded.
Correct.
Right. So he has to leave the school in order to make the radio work, though. He has to back out of the hallway and make the radio work.
Yes.
Okay. And that's not normal. Like you would want your police officers to have their radio working wherever they are inside of the school.
We want to, yes.
Right. Because that's your lifeline. That's how you communicate to each other what a threat is. It's how you communicate for backups and reinforcement and things like that, right?
Yes.
I mean, in a situation like that, an officer who doesn't have access to a radio is at a disadvantage.
Yes.
Ranger Ryan Kendall, he was there, but did he go in with the breach team?
No, he did not.
Okay. So the time that he was there, but not rushing to the door and trying to breach into that door.
I can't tell you. I can't testify to what he did.
Okay, but you know he wasn't on the breach team.
He was not on the breach team.
Got it. And we heard from one of the other officers that was, which I mean, no doubt that's it's incredibly brave and good thing to do for them to have done because, as we've heard, Wayne Jackson was on the end of the stick from Border Patrol and he got shot in the head by the shooter.
Correct.
And you knew that. And you also knew, I'm sorry, because it
just bad water.
Yeah, okay. And the shield person in front, like they went in behind the shield, and the shield person took rounds on the shield from the shooter as they were coming in the door.
Correct.
All right. Without the shield, that would have just been rounds inside a human being.
Correct.
Right. And depending on where they, shoot in the head, dead, but if they have a rifle-rated vest, they can perhaps survive it. Right?
Correct.
If they don't have a rifle-rated vest, those rounds will go through a pistol-rated vest.
I would assume so.
Yeah. So, a dead police officer cannot help anybody else. You agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. So, there were, you know, because we talked to the guy who actually went in, he thought his daughter might have been in the classroom. Arrived at the school, figured out what was happening, and he said he arrived at 11:56 and the breach team went in at 12:50. So even him, even a person who went in and thought this is the last moment I'm spending on planet Earth because this guy's about to shoot me. Even that person, there was almost an hour before he went in, and that's what he testified to. And is that consistent with what was going on with the other officers that you interviewed on the scene or that your other Rangers interviewed?
I can't speak on the behalf of the other Rangers what their interviews. Can you reword the question?
Yeah, so his experience of even perhaps having his daughter inside of that classroom, not knowing if she were in that classroom or not, and being, I'll tell you what, no doubt being a brave police officer, because he did put his life on the line to go in that room. But even he was waiting 50 minutes or so from the time he arrived to the time that they breached. Is that consistent with the other people that you interviewed? But there was that wait time.
I can't answer that question because I don't have the exact times of when officers arrived and when they didn't.
Okay. But you would also agree that a wait time of that long, it was waiting for what you understand is they were trying to get a breach team together that had the proper equipment that could breach in there without getting themselves killed.
That was my understanding, yes.
Now so now looking at defense 10, I don't know, remind me, you said you did not know that the three officers were there, but you do know now? Is that a fact?
Yes.
Okay. So the three officers here, shooter goes into the west entrance here, and then they drive all the way around the building to this, I'll show you over here. They drive all the way, shooter goes in the building and they drive all the way around here and come up through here. Did you know that they had done that? So
Can you repeat that? Oh.
Yeah. So they're here, they're basically at the, let me make sure I got to orient myself. Okay. Funeral home, this intersection, right here. At this intersection, they're in like their cars are in a formation, I guess, and they're ducking because they think people are shooting at or somebody is. So the shooter goes in this door, this entrance, and they drive around here, and then they run up through here and go into the south door. Did you know that as part of?
No.
Okay. It'd be weird, right, to see somebody with a gun go into the school and then drive around the school and then come up through there, right?
I don't know what their intention was in doing so.
Well,
you have to make an assumption that that's what happened.
Sure, but you would expect it's like, you'd be driving right up to that door and then rushing through the door after the shooter. That's what your alert training says.
Correct.
Right. It would say you get from here to here and you run in there and you do whatever you can do with the shooter, with whatever you have. All right, and that's because you've seen it with your eyes and you've seen what's happening and you have to follow up on it. Now, in this particular situation, there was a wreck that happened first, right?
Yes.
Now, in your interviews with your officers, did you interview Uvalde specific officers or teachers or anybody there that talked about the bailouts that happened basically all the time in Uvalde at that time?
Yes, I did.
And did they talk to you about that it was with such frequency? It was happening so often that people were getting desensitized to it. Like, it's another bailout. It's another person. Oh, we got to shut down the school or do lockdown. Did you get that idea or that sense from the people that you interviewed?
I don't specifically remember if it happened, how often it happened, but there was an interview that I conducted where they mentioned that it was an area where there was a lot of bailouts related to human smuggling. And then once in a while, the school would go on lockdown because of it.
Right, and so, so just talking about that, if there's a separate, like, and nobody's saying it's right in hindsight. Obviously, in hindsight, there's all kinds of stuff that everybody, probably included you, would have done different. But if there's that experience of these bailouts, and then there's a wreck, and then somebody's jumped out, right? Then, if you have that many, it can seem, or people can believe, law enforcement can believe that I'm dealing with one of those again, right?
Well, that goes back to educators and law enforcement with complacency.
Yeah.
And it's the responsibility of every officer not to be complacent, treat every individual incident like it might be an example, an active shooter or a person just trespassing on a school premises.
No.
So they shouldn't be taken lightly. That
I agree with that, and like and it's true, but complacency, like if somebody's experienced something over and over again, I'm not saying Adrian's one of the ones that is responding to that thing like there's a school shooter. He's the one that's running to where he thinks the danger is. He's driving directly towards what he thinks is a threat. You agree with that?
I agree.
Based on what you've heard. And then going into the hallway of a person that has a rifle, when he tells you, I see that this guy, there's a shot coming out of that window, and I go up the hallway with these other guys. We go into the school, into the hallway where the guy with the rifle we think is, or is located around.
correct?
Right. Both times trying to go towards the thing that could kill him. And he's doing that in those two situations that we've talked about. Right?
Correct.
Okay. So I guess what I mean is with complacency, I'm not talking about Adrian. But I'm talking about if you have all these bailouts and things are going on all the time, if your first thought is not that they're going into this school to hurt children, but going through this school to get away from us, it's not a great thought. That's our face. I agree with you. But that can explain why they think that they're meeting them on the other side of the building, and then they come back through like, oh, he didn't come out. You see what I mean? It's not a correct thing to think. It's not a correct thing to think, perhaps, and especially in hindsight. But there is no other reason than that an officer would go around this way, except they think that the guy's going to be around that way. As an officer, you would agree with that? If you were going to drive around here, it's only because the guy you saw you think is going to be around here and not inside the school shooting kids.
It's a possibility, yes.
Right. Yeah, right. Because we're not defending it, right? Like we're not defending that action or anything else, but also they're not sitting in that chair either, right? Even if, people make mistakes. Nobody charged them with any crime. And nobody charged you, and nobody charged any of the other officers that were out there. That were clearly out there for a long time while shooting was going on inside a classroom. I'm not saying to you said you didn't hear any shots. But you agree that there were shots. Even later on into the incident, there were shots in that classroom.
Yes, I agree with you.
Right. And officers were there and present and didn't go inside.
Correct.
All right. So you treated all of them, including Adrian, as witnesses.
Yes.
Not suspect.
Yes.
Right. It was only years later it came around and they picked one and put him in his chair.
That's going to be up to the totality of circumstances.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. It's not up to you. I'll pass it.
Thank you, Rob. Just want to start tying down a few details, okay? There's considerable discussion about whether or not when Melody Flores was talking to Adrian Gonzales, whether or not that was discussion about the shots were coming over there on the other side of the building or in the private teacher's parking lot.
Correct.
How many times did Adrian Gonzales say that Melody Flores told him by the teacher's parking lot?
About 3 times.
And we talked about sound. In an active shooter situation, what does the sound of gunfire tell you?
Where the general area where it's coming from.
Okay. And if it's at Robb's school during a school day and you hear gunfire coming from the teacher's parking lot, is that an active shooter situation?
Yes.
Whether you see it or hear it, it's an active shooter situation.
Yes.
And if you hear it 30 seconds before somebody else, you're in a better position to know it's an active shooter situation.
Yes.
And if you hear it's an active shooter situation and you're a police officer, what are you supposed to do?
You're supposed to, the proper thing to do is isolate the suspect and then distract and then try and neutralize. So you move to the sound of gunfire as...
You move to the sound of gunfire,
Yes.
try to distract him, try to isolate him, or try to neutralize him, take him out.
Yes.
And of course, a dead police officer would be no help to the kids in 111.
Of course.
A dead police officer would be no help to the kids in 112.
Yes.
With a police officer hearing shots all the way down the west side of the building and into the hallway and into 111 and 112, a police officer hearing all that and not moving, is that any help to those children in 111 and 112?
No, it's not.
Is it any more help than a dead police officer?
No, it's not.
But at least you tried.
Who tried? I'll just object because that's, it's a big question, but honestly, I don't.
I'll sustain the objection.
Now let me also ask you about a dead police officer. Can a police officer use this building as cover if he has specific information that the shooter is in the parking lot?
Yes, he can.
And by cover, it means that he can have cover so that the gunman can't see him.
Correct.
And he can choose the time to make a quick peek to see the gunman.
The officer can use the cover as concealment also. Yes. To
And
not be
concealment.
seen.
So he can definitely have an advantage by peeking when he wants to, and he certainly has not put himself in any harm's way.
Correct.
And finally, I believe the testimony that you've given us was dispatcher said, man with a gun.
Correct.
No shooting at that time.
Correct.
Difference between a man with a gun and a man shooting.
Correct.
A man that is shooting is more dangerous than simply a man with a gun,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
So when Adrian Gonzales drove toward the person in pink,
Not pink, it was orange or red.
orange or peach, I think.
Orange or peach. Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
Drove to the person with orange and peach. He had no information there'd been any shooting then, right?
That's correct.
And so he acted when all he knew was there was a man with a gun.
Correct.
Now, when the teacher tells him he's over there, he's in the parking lot, he's in black, isn't that when Adrian Gonzales said that's when the shooting started?
Correct.
And did he act then?
Yes.
He said that he started walking to the back of his vehicle, and that's when he heard the shots fired.
Walking in the back of his vehicle,
Correct.
taking cover.
He never said he was taking cover. He just said that he walked from the front to the back of his
Did he
patrol
tell you
vehicle.
I didn't go in until I had cover?
During the interview, he makes a comment that he goes into the south building. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what his words were. I
We
hate
can
to
listen to
misquote
the
him.
tape,
Yes.
But when he sees Pargas's vehicle, he wants Pargas's vehicle to come over because he's got a bigger unit. correct?
That's what I understood in the interview.
For cover.
Yes.
So when Pargas gets here, he's still looking for cover from Pargas's unit.
Yes, that's correct.
And so when his supervisor, his boss arrives, and 3 other people arrive, and they're told to go in, at that time he goes in, correct?
Correct.
And at that time he knows, and has known for some time, that there are already shots in the classroom, correct? He saw glass breaking out of the east side.
Mr. Gonzales says that
I got an objection to leading.
Your Honor, he's qualified him as an expert.
Well, you can't lead an expert in saying correct after every sentence.
Okay, let's sustain the objection. Rephrase it, please. Hey, y'all cut that other one loose. We're not doing it tonight. Okay.
This is the last
Yeah,
area.
either way. I can't keep staff here that long. So-
Very good. I apologize. And so, did Adrian Gonzales tell you anything about seeing glass come out the window?
yes, he did.
And would that indicate that there's a shooter in the room where that glass is coming out?
That's what he believed. Yes, sir.
Not the hallway.
Can you reword that question?
The room would not be the same as the hallway.
Correct.
And he was not the first one in, correct?
No, he wasn't.
Donald Page was the first one in, correct?
What, can we back up to that other question? I'm sorry. When you said that the rounds went through the window, Mr. Gonzales says that he knew the shooter wasn't outside the building. He knew that he was inside the building now. Not necessarily that he was in the hallway or in one of the classrooms, but that's how he was able to tell from outside to inside the building.
But he didn't go in until there were 3 people for cover.
Correct.
And he was not the first one in.
Correct.
And do you know how long it was between the time he heard the first shots and when he finally went in?
I do not.
Do you know how many children died in that period of time?
I do not know.
In an active shooter situation, most of the killing happens in the first 2 minutes, doesn't it?
I'm not aware of the information that it does or it doesn't.
Okay. You took alert classes, right?
Yes.
And they studied the histories of how quickly those killings happen.
Correct.
And present and time is of the essence.
Correct.
Every second could cost a life.
Yes.
As the witness.
Just real quick, if you're not the first one in, but he said Donald Page hit one side of the hallway and he went down the other side.
Correct.
Right. So they're both going down the hallway, but he's on this side of the hallway and Donald Page is on the other side.
Yes.
Okay. The prosecutor is trying to mash it all into something that fits the reason this guy's sitting here.
Comments on what I'm trying to do, Your Honor.
Well, that's what he's trying to do.
I'm gonna
I'll
object.
sustain the objection.
Yes, Your Honor.
Rephrase it.
Yes, Your Honor. But ultimately, a person who is going towards somebody who they believe is armed, that is a dangerous, potentially dangerous situation. You would agree with that?
Yes.
Right. I mean, but the prosecutor said, well, he didn't hear that there were shots fired, so therefore it's not dangerous. You wouldn't agree with that statement.
I didn't say that it wasn't dangerous, Your Honor.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, questions are not evidence. If your recollection is different, rely on your own. Proceed.
Yeah, it's dangerous. That's what he's doing. He's going towards danger, potential danger, right?
Yes.
Right. The doors, the outer doors, inner doors, outer doors, inner doors. Those doors are locked, and the shooter has a harder time getting inside. You would agree with that?
Which doors are you talking about? The
Outer.
inside doors or the outside doors?
Both. Start with the outside.
The outside doors?
If they're locked, he can't get into the school, or he has a harder time doing it. You would agree?
He has a harder time getting inside the school.
Right. He'd have to maybe back up and shoot it a bunch of times. I don't know, but it would be more difficult for him to do that.
Yes.
Okay. Inside doors. That's why we tell them to lock the doors, is because inside doors, if they're locked, shooter has a harder time getting in.
Yes.
All right, and gives officers more time to delay and distract, and all of those things that we talked about.
Yes, of course.
All right, now, the prosecution's own evidence shows the video. The second, when he's able to call out that the person is on the west side of the teacher parking lot, the shooter has 1 second before that already entered the building. So you can cut a pie at the field all you want. The second he got it and snuck a peek, he would have been looking at an empty side of the building because the shooter was inside of it. Did you know that from your investigation?
No, sir.
All right. But he did tell you the second, once he saw a bullet come out of the building and realized he was in the building, he started moving towards the building from his car to where Donald Page was.
Yes.
All right. That's it, Judge. Pass it.
And the time on the dispatch will say how long that distinction is that correct?
Between radio, yes, between the time Mr. Gonzales radioed anything, it'll show that time.
So if Adrian Gonzales knows he's in the building and then dispatches, and then we then know when he heads toward the building, that will tell us how long has passed that Adrian Gonzales did nothing when he knew the shooter was in the building. Correct?
Correct.
And if a police officer does his job in an active shooting situation, he can prevent somebody to get into the first door. Is that correct?
In a perfect example, yes. If everything fell into place, exactly, yes.
And what does solo entry mean in an active shooter situation?
Means one officer making entry into a potential threat, where the potential threat is.
So, and is an officer expected to go in solo entry when there's an active shooter?
In alert training, yes.
Absolutely.
But if they haven't had alert training, then maybe not.
If the officer hasn't gone through alert training, I wouldn't expect him to follow any of the procedures because he doesn't know.
Pass it.
If he taught a class on it 2 months earlier where he said solo entry should be prepared for, then you might expect him to go in solo?
Yes, sir.
That's the witness.
I have nothing for you, Judge.
I've forgotten, are we on cross?
Yes, Your Honor.
Correct?
I'll stop it here. I got nothing.
We're all
further.
done?
Yes, sir.
Is he excused, not subject to recall?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, we're
We
gonna
want
look
him
at
on recall, Judge. We want him subject to recall.
All right, so we're gonna hold that other witness till 8:30 tomorrow morning. We'll do that matter outside the presence of the jury. I need the lawyers here at 8:30. Need y'all back at 9 o'clock. The rule's been invoked, sir. You are subject to recall. You know what the rule is, but please don't discuss the case with anyone other than the lawyers and be available in the event of a recall.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. You're excused for today. Would everyone rise for the jury? 9 o'clock tomorrow.